Welcome back to PC Building Simulator, everybody. Today, I woke up and I had a bunch of new subscribers on the channel and I was really excited to make this video. But now for the fourth time recording it because of two errors, and one of them it didn't save properly and one of them my hard drive just cut out while recording, so I don't know what happened there. And then the third time I just completely forgot to click record after I did the whole video and realized I didn't click record and was just like, so this is all my hard work coming into you, and coming in for you guys. I love seeing all the new subscribers and everything. It was looking awesome, and this is the build we are going to be working with today. In game it shows $2,000 build, but that's nowhere near how much it's going to cost, as the parts in here are priced a lot higher than they are in real life, for most of the parts actually. There's only a couple of them that are actually priced cheaper, and so today we're going to be trying to build this as fast as I can, just so I can do some good editing with this, because it is already getting to be almost 9 o'clock and I'm trying to get this out before midnight. So I'm going to unbuild the PC here, as you'll watch in the intro, and then we'll jump to me putting the whole thing back together, and I will tell you everything about it. In real life, this build comes out to about $1,200, and that is at the time of filming this on August 8th, 2020. Some of the parts I use in this build are going to be different from the ones I have in a parts list I'm going to link in the description below, and that is just because this game has a lot of parts, but it doesn't have everything. It's got almost everything though. I love this game. But alright, now here we are back and we have a naked PC case. Nothing in it, no front panels, no top panels, side panels are all off, and the two PCIe covers back here that are for the graphics card that I'm choosing for this build are going to be going right in there. For this build, I am going with a B450 Tomahawk motherboard in the game. In real life, it's the B450 Tomahawk Max, the newer version of it, and that one has a few extra features and it costs less. And for our memory, we're going with G.Skill, and I'm going with 16 gigs of, in the game we're choosing two 8 gig 4000 megahertz sticks that are going to go in these two slots if you choose this motherboard, as long as this motherboard is the same as the B450 Max that I have linked in the description, which uses those two memory channels. That'll maximize the speed you can have for your memory. Next thing I'm going to do is lift this little retention arm on the CPU socket. That, you see the motion of it, it backs it up a little. Oh, pretty much opening it up so you can put the CPU in. And for this one, we're going with a Ryzen 7 3700X 8-core processor. It's a really nice one. 8 cores is plenty of power for the average user. For gaming, it's more than enough. In fact, my computer only has six cores in it, and it runs games very, very well. Next thing I'm going to do is put a little dot of thermal paste on the CPU and put on a CPU cooler. For the real life build with the parts list I have, I don't have a cooler in that list because I would recommend using the stock cooler that comes with the CPU, because it's a pretty good cooler, but in this case, in the game doesn't do stock coolers, so we'll just put this one on. This big ass air cooler. And then for our storage, we're going with SSDs, and we're going to use an M.2 drive that goes in right there. Slot like that. It'll stick in like this, and then you'll push it down into place. But at the end of it, where it goes right here, you'll put in a little standoff that comes in your motherboard box. And then you'll put the drive on top of it and screw it into place like that. Another thing you're going to do, if you choose to build it this way, is get the 1TB SSD I've chosen for the real life build. In this case it says 960 gig, but that's the same thing. And you'll put it in any of these slots here, one up here, one there, and one here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is input the power supply, and for this build we're going with a 650 watt to have room for upgradability in the future, to say upgrade your CPU or graphics card, or you know, just add anything else. Maybe you're adding another PCI card and it takes up a lot of power for some reason. So we're going with the 650 watt just to have room for upgradability. And that goes in right there. And in this case, there's a fan on one side of in all power supplies, there's a fan on one side, and the other is a flat base. And so the fan is at the bottom of this one, pushing air outward. Keep it cool. And for the graphics card, for this build, I have chosen an RTX 2060. And we're going to choose this one, right there. Slap in the Founders Edition, and it looks like that. For the build I have chosen not the Founders Edition because it costs more, but for the build here I'm using it just for this purpose. I'm in the parts list, I've chosen the MSI RTX 2060 Gaming Z video card, which costs $359 versus the in-game Founders Edition price of $590. So you know, you'll save yourself like $200 by doing it that way. Another thing I'm going to do here is with cooling. With every computer it generates heat, and with this one it's probably going to generate a lot while you're gaming. So we're just going to go with some of these cheap fans, and we're going to put one up here, and we're going to grab another one of those, because you should have all your fans in your PC matching if you can. If you can do it that way, and since it's a game I can do it however I want. And I'm going to put another fan up here at the front, and another fan right here at the front in the middle, another one at the bottom of the front. That'll cool the power supply. And if you put any hard drives in the bottom there, if your case allows room. This one sadly does not allow room for extra cooling up there, but that's okay. We got plenty of fans to keep everything cool in the PC as it is. We got 6 of them, 3 at the front, 2 at the top, 1 at the back, and plus the fan in the middle here on the air cooler. Next thing we're going to go do is we're going to plug in everything, starting with the 24 pin right there. You'll thread it through this grommet here for your cable management. You can do it like that and send it up through there, or you can just have it come back around and just only through the one hole and just hiding behind there if you want to have that look a little better. For the PCIe power to the graphics card, you can send it right up through that one, or through this bottom one would look good too. Connect the air cooler, which goes to the little connector right up there, and we'll connect the case fan, and that goes right there. And for these fans, they just daisy chain them all to each other, which a lot of fans do. It makes your cable management really easy to hide, and everything looks really neat and tidy. The next thing I'm going to do is plug in the 8-pin power for the motherboard right up there. And we're going to go grab the case power button, all the connectors for the front panel, and we'll go from there to right down there. They all just plug in, each spot coordinated. Those plugs are those pins to plug the little spots onto are kind of hard sometimes just because of how little they are. So if you have trouble, don't worry, we all do. And you'll connect your SSD to power like that, or to the motherboard like that right there through the SATA port, and to the power supply like that. And sometimes it's always good to, oh yeah, and then one more thing you're going to do, you're going to get your operating system installation flash drive right up there. And then sometimes before putting anything back on, just to avoid having to undo the put back on and make it easier to fix if you have any problems, is leave it open. But we're going to power this one on after we plug all the cables in for the exterior, like the mouse, the keyboard, the monitor to the graphics card, not to the spot on the motherboard. Don't do that. It won't work. And then you'll connect your power supply cable to that. You'll flick the little switch to turn it on, and you'll push your power button, which it'll bring you to this, which you'll go into the BIOS, usually mash delete or F12. And for this one, we're going to go here to System, and we're going to make sure that everything in here is running, and our CPU temp is 32 degrees, which is very low, very cool for first boot up idle. I mean, it's bumping down to 31, so that's even better. And for this, we are making sure it's got the correct chip, the Ryzen 7 3700, CPU speed at 4400 megahertz, which is perfect for the CPU. The RAM, two 8 gig sticks for 16 gigs, using 2 of 2 memory channels, used for max. RAM speed is 2400 megahertz, which I'll fix that to the highest speed we can get it to in this computer. And for the GPU, we're making sure it's got the GeForce RTX 2060 there. And for the storage, we got our M.2 drive and our other SSD. Now for the RAM, we're going to come in here and we're going to enable XMP, and that'll boost it to the max speed our motherboard can allow, or our CPU can allow, right there at 3466 megahertz. And now we're going to apply changes and restart. Yes. Going to boot right in, and it's going to boot in and load up an operating system right onto here. And we're going to go add a program so we can benchmark the system. And we're going to restart. And when it boots back up, we're going to launch that program and run this test. And this test will run and do a CPU heavy test, a GPU heavy test, and a second GPU heavy test. And all of them will be running to try and see the max frames per second we can get and how quickly it'll go through, and it just gives it a nice score. The higher the score, the better. I've had scores up close to 20k and above 20k before, and those systems are really expensive. Like the first build I did here for one of these kind of videos, I did an $8,000 my personal build. That one I didn't even put the parts list in the description because I doubt anyone is going to be affording that. If you want me to send you the list, DM me on Twitter, which you should give me a follow at. I'll link that in the description below, along with a full real-life parts list for this build. And I'll see you in a moment when this test is over. Alright, test is over, and we got a score of 7,087, with a graphics score of 6,738. For graphics test 1's average frames per second were 43.75, and graphics test 2 frames per second were 38.74. Our CPU score was 10,035, for our CPU frames per second at 33.68. Those are all really good scores, will run your games very well, and if you happen to be video editor, creating content like me, this will also run video editing software extremely well too. Not as well as some, not as, or yeah, this will run it better than mine actually, because mine's a 6 core, this is an 8 core system. So it'll run the programs better than mine. If you do choose to go with and do a video editing path, you might want to upgrade and go to 32 gigs of RAM in the future. That would be one of the first upgrades I would suggest for this. But anyways, I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Thanks for coming to the channel. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate all the support. If you enjoyed it, obliterate that like button down below. And subscribe if you're new. Also, if you want to see a certain level of budget build in a future video, write it down below in the comments And I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one.